Hi, I'm Abdul Saad, clinical psychologist at Vital Mind Psychology. Here in Sydney, Australia, my website is vitalmind.com.au. That's where you can find information about my approach, the services I offer, including to international clients, wherever you are in the world with online coaching. Also check me out on Facebook, just search for Vital Mind Psychology. So in today's video, I'm going to be exploring in a bit more detail the grandiose narcissist or grandiose narcissism according to three distinct levels of grandiose narcissism that I have noticed operating through experience within clinical practice, through observation, through reading of the clinical literature. These are three sort of rough guides of three levels of this form of narcissism, the grandiose narcissism, that we can see operating within individuals. And what this provides us, the model I'm going to present today provides us, is more of a dimensional model or a sliding scale, so that we can understand narcissism across a spectrum from, we could say, least pathological, although there's definitely pathology at this first level, to most or most severely pathological. So it's a three-part model. It's both categorical in nature in that these are distinct categories, but it's also dimensional in that they sort of merge into each other as we get to the extremes of each category. So what I hope to do is to explain each level, and hopefully that will give you a more holistic sort of three-dimensional view of narcissism, because we often speak about narcissism as this monolithic entity, and of course it becomes that at the level of the character disorder or personality disorder. But it's also important to understand what are the precursors to the disorder and what can we observe. So the first level within grandiose narcissism that I'm defining in this video is called the self-promoter or self-aggrandizer. And this is what I believe marks the first departure into a level of pathology that paves the way for a narcissistic personality disorder. What we have here is an individual that fundamentally has a deep need for admiration. This is an individual who still has some conscious perception, some conscious awareness of underlying feelings of insecurity, of inferiority, of shame, of worthlessness. But this is an individual who is desperate to not really to put their best foot forward, to put the best image forward of themselves, to keep at bay any negative perceptions of themselves, any negative beliefs regarding themselves, as I said, any shame. So what we see in this individual is a need for admiration and a fear of being inconsequential, a fear of being insignificant, a deep fear of not being seen. And typically at this level, this will manifest in behaviors of endless self-promotion, shameless self-promotion, bragging, overinflation of one's achievements, but even outright lying or deception in order to put their best image forward. So these are people who are really pushing themselves, marketing themselves, promoting themselves, presenting an image of themselves as superior. They've got it together. And at this level, the individual is really interested in triggering a sense of envy in other people. Now, at this level, there is still a semblance of, there's still empathy, there's still some anxiety, because at this level, the self-promotion and self-aggrandizement is directed both toward the self and to others. This is an individual who is desperately trying to prove to themselves as much as to others that they are superior, that they are great, that they are without defect or without fault. So we can still see at this level breakouts of shame, of anxiety, of how am I coming across, how is my audience perceiving me. And at this level, we begin to see also relationships start to suffer, because the individual that's in this shameless self-promotion, self-aggrandizement level or stage reaches a point where serious people can't take them seriously. And if anyone points out disparities between the projected self and the real self. This is an individual that will become acutely upset, very hypervigilant to criticism, and will begin to dismiss and devalue people that do not serve their agenda of self-promotion and basically do not believe the Kool-Aid that they have been drinking and promoting about themselves. Now, the pointy end of this shameless self-promotion, and we see this, by the way, an explosion of this level of narcissism in social media, on Instagram, for example, which has become, I believe, from what I observe, a hotbed for bubbling narcissistic pathology. Is what happens is the person here reaches a fork in the road. Either they continue to believe their own self-promotion and self-deception and the image they've put forward, or they come to terms with the reality of their situation that they aren't, that the image they put forward is a gross over exaggeration of who and what they truly are. Now that fork in the road is, if I go down the path of acknowledging that I've overshot the mark and oversold myself, I have to experience quite a catastrophic psychological regression to bring me down to earth. I'm going to have to experience a depression, and I'm going to have to rebuild myself in a way that is more grounded and more holistic. And often the development into the second level, and this is where we're looking at MPD territory here, is the individual says unconsciously that I can't go back to any semblance of feeling of insecurity or inferiority. So at the second level, the individual has basically relegated any idea of insecurity or worthlessness deep within their unconscious mind, and they have deeply committed themselves to the superior image that they have presented. They're committed now, and the world is their stage. So at this level, the need moves from the need for admiration toward the need for advantage, right? Because at this level now, the person has become detached, highly manipulative, has become a trickster, the detached manipulator or trickster, because they have fully accepted, they have fully, integrated in an unhealthy way the unrealistic, superior self-image, superior ego, the ego inflation. They have become one with that. And there is no more room anymore at this level for allowing shame, insecurity, or anxiety to break through. So having committed to their grandiose sense of self at this level, the need turns toward gaining advantage. It turns toward trickery, deception, chicanery, because the individual at this level, and this is the level of the narcissistic personality disorder, fundamentally believes in their superiority, in their brilliance. And this, therefore, in their mind, grants them the attitude of entitlement, which leads them to exploit people. And at this level, there is a lot of rationalizations happening here. So there can still be a conscience operating here. The person isn't totally devoid of conscience, but they have so wholly sold out to their grandiose image that in a way has become their God. That's what they worship. And the grandiose image, the brilliance, the superiority must win at all cost. And this is where they become incredibly entitled, incredibly aggressive. They want to ascend dominance hierarchies. At this level, the person has fully lost touch with any heart connection they may have had to others, and with any heart connection they may have had even to themselves, which we can still see at level 1, where they still had some level of ambivalence and some level of insecurity about, well, am I really that great? At this level, it's locked and loaded, and it's very difficult because of the defenses that are operating and the rationalizations to go back. Now, most individuals with a narcissistic personality structure will operate at this level number 2, okay? A more benign level is level number 1, but if the individual is not careful, it's become incredibly easy, much more easy in the current climate of social media and instant gratification for an individual to progress to this second level of detached manipulator and trickster, where at this level the other people are being viewed as a source of narcissistic supply. Other people are pawns. At this level, others are a source of narcissistic supply, but there's still the sense of there's an audience there and I'm receptive to feedback from the audience, and there's still some level of hypersensitivity. Whereas at this level, it is a one-way street. People are a source of supply, and if they fail to give me that supply, they're devalued, they're discarded, they're banished, as I discussed in the last video. So we see a clear evolution here. Now, the third level is rare, and I'm not suggesting that people with a narcissistic personality disorder are at this level. It is a distinct level. I call it the tyrant or psychopathic bully. Other researchers call it malignant narcissism, which is seen as a precursor to sort of psychopathy and antisocial personality structures. But at this level, the individual has experienced or has gained a lot of material success from their self-aggrandizement, from selling out to their ego, from their deception, the fraud, the chicanery. I should mention, actually, one thing I forgot is one of the things that we see at this level that we can witness trickery and deception with things like, fraud, plagiarism. Plagiarism is actually a really big sign for a big predictor of narcissism. Fraud, plagiarism, lying on your resume or CV, using deception by any means possible to come out on top, to be a winner. So this is extreme high levels of aggression, of seeking dominance. Now, you might think, well, could it get any worse than that? Yes, because at level 3, the person has experienced considerable, if not immense, material success from operating at level 2, from being detached, manipulative, being a trickster, from treating people as a source of narcissistic supply. And most people are not going to progress to the third level, because the third level represents a focus on a mix of ensuring that you keep your power at any cost. And there is also more of a sadistic element here, where there is a pleasure taken in seeing people uncomfortable, in seeing people in positions of weakness. So at this level, it's not purely that, well, people have to get hurt and their collateral damage. It's that, look, I gain pleasure from seeing people hurt. There is a complete loss of any sense of a conscience. And individuals with a narcissistic personality disorder can go down this slippery slope. For example, if they begin to feel that their empire is crumbling around them. We see this, for example, in leaders of cults. Someone like Jim Jones, historically, with the actions he took when he found out that the game was over. We can also see this level operating in, white-collar criminals, in psychopathic individuals who operate in white-collar circles. The sort of individuals who triggered the subprime mortgage crisis a decade ago, which then triggered the global financial crisis, were definitely in this domain here between level 2, and many of them would have been in level 3. There was a total lack of conscience for the consequences. So at this level, we see elements of clearly malignant levels of narcissism, psychopathy, a lack of a conscience. Paranoia is very common at this level, as the individual becomes hypervigilant to anyone that is threatening their empire or is perceived to be threatening their empire. And as I said, this is thankfully not typical of the progression. Most individuals, in my experience with the narcissistic personality disorder, will stay at this level unless they experience such a catastrophic event that triggers their fundamental fear and their shame and the fear of losing all that they have acquired through this process, that they may lash out in irrational ways. There's some work going on top of me in the other office. I will start to wrap it up here, but I'll just say that hopefully this gives you a more dimensional view of grandiose narcissism. What I'm going to be doing in next week's video, God willing, is turning the focus upon covert or vulnerable or hypersensitive narcissism, following the same structure looking at it through those 4 domains, and then looking at the 3 levels of covert / vulnerable or hypersensitive narcissism. So stay tuned for that. And I look forward to seeing you again next week, God willing. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, give us a like on Facebook. And again, if I can be of any assistance to international clients who reside outside of Australia, just get in touch with me through the online contact form. You'll see that when you visit the site vitalmind.com.au. Take care. Bye-bye.